everybody, this is Keith here of Euphoria Pictures. Welcome back to my channel. Right, so for this video it's going to be a simple haul video. I'm going to be showing my latest 4K and Blu-ray pickups that I've gotten in the last couple of weeks. And not just that, but I'm also going to revisit a couple of titles that I picked up from HD Movie Source. I said in that video that I was going to watch them movies and then come back and share my thoughts on the 4K transfers, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing in this video. So it's a short video here, folks. I've only got a couple of titles. I'm not going to spend too much time with them because I just don't want the video to go on too long. So I am going to start with the HD Movie Source movies that I got, and the first title I'm going to be talking about is The Evil Dead Remake. Now, I said in that video that I can't imagine this 4K edition looking drastically different than the Blu-ray, because the Blu-ray just simply looks astonishing. And for the most part, that is true. It's a more subtle difference that you're going to see on this release. Now, don't get me wrong, it is an absolute beautiful disc, the 4K disc, and it is a better looking disc over that previous Blu-ray. But just don't be expecting, you know, leaps and bounds over that Blu-ray. You're simply not going to get it. And I have to admit, but there is a few scenes in this movie where it's incredibly obvious that you're watching a 4K disc, and when you do see them scenes, your jaw will simply drop. And you'll just question why we can't get that for the entire movie. One scene in particular, just check out the scene where the five of them get to the cabin for the first time. Just check out there's a wide shot of the cabin. Just check out the fine detail that you see on it, and some of the beautiful Dolby Vision colors that you also get to notice as well. And yeah, it's just absolutely beautiful to look at. It's just a shame the rest of the picture didn't quite live up to that scene. But like I said, don't let me put you off this. It is definitely the best the movie has ever looked. Chances are it's going to be the best it's ever going to look. And yeah, if you're a fan of this movie, I actually recommend checking it out. I think you'd be very impressed by it. So there we go, that is The Evil Dead Remake. And then that brings me on to another remake, which is Dawn of the Dead. Now, I said in that video as well that this movie had a poor showing on Blu-ray. I hated it. I don't know, the Blu-ray had this kind of overexposed look to it. I'm happy to report that that's all gone now. This movie looks astonishing. Astonishing on 4K. Now, there is some heavy grain there to be seen. Quite sometimes it can be a bit distracting at times, but I think this movie has a stylistic look, and that grain leads to that stylistic look. But there is no denying some of the fine detail that you're going to see in this movie. Some of the best you will ever see out there. Honestly, folks, I cannot praise it enough. And if you have not seen this movie on 4K, check it out. You are going to be blown away by it. It was actually like watching the movie for the first time again. That's how great the 4K picture looked in this. The only one downside to it is we didn't get a Dolby Atmos soundtrack in it, because it's one of them movies that would have lent very, very well to Dolby Atmos. But having said that, the 5.1 on this sounds fantastic as well, so I can't complain too much. It's just a minor little nitpick to an absolute stellar release. And you also get the uncut version of this movie as well on that 4K disc, so it's a win-win. So again, if you're a fan of this movie, I honestly can't recommend it enough. Check out this movie on 4K. You are going to be blown away by the picture quality. So that is Dawn of the Dead. Right, so on to my third and last pickup that I got from HD Movie Source. And unfortunately, this is the worst of the three. It is The Usual Suspects. It just had to be this movie. So this is my fifth movie from Kino Lorber, and this is definitely the worst from them in terms of picture quality. The biggest problem I have with it, the movie simply doesn't look like a 4K disc. It looks like a Blu-ray. It looks like a good Blu-ray. Not a great Blu-ray, just a good Blu-ray. There wasn't one scene in this movie where I just said to myself, wow, this is a stunning looking 4K picture. It's amazing. I'm not kidding. I could not find one scene. The picture just has a soft presentation look to it. Thankfully, the Dolby Vision colors do tighten things up a bit, but again, it's not a drastic difference over that previous Blu-ray. And it was a real letdown. Now, don't let me put this off, folks. It's not a horrible looking disc. It's by no means a horrible looking disc. It does look good. But just in terms of 4K quality, it's not there. Simply not there. You will finish this movie, you will knock it off, and you'll have to remind yourself that you are watching a 4K disc. And in my eyes, that's simply not good enough. So yeah, it's a shame about that one. Such a great movie as well. So that's The Usual Suspects. Right, so on to my only Blu-ray that I have here. And the only thing I will say about this movie is damn my curiosity. damn it to hell, we have got the Fog remake. Honestly, folks, this is the worst remake in history. I don't care what anyone says. This is the worst remake I have ever seen. Everything that made the original John Carpenter movie great, they just went against it in this movie. Of course, they had to give us the whole backstory about the Elizabeth Dane. You know, they just had to go back. They had to show us. I am a big fan of what you don't see is scarier. Unfortunately, the director of this movie didn't see it that way. He felt it was necessary to show all the ghosts. They looked absolutely ridiculous. Nothing scary about them at all. They looked like something from a Nickelodeon movie. It just looked horrible. The movie lacked any kind of atmosphere. The score was awful to it. And the cast is shocking. I've never seen anything quite as bad in terms of remakes. And I have seen some bad remakes out there. But this is easily the worst movie. So if you're a fan of John Carpenter's movies, John Carpenter's The Fog, sorry, do not waste your time with this movie. Don't be like me. Don't let your curiosity get the better of you. You are getting nothing from this movie. Actually, you're getting one good thing. The picture quality is actually quite decent on it, and the sound is not too bad. But other than that, it's a terrible crap movie. And yeah, I hated every second of it. So that is the Fog remake. God awful. Right, so back to my 4K releases, and I have a Steelbook here of R.I.P.D. Now, I'm going to just say this at the start here. I'm a fan of this movie. I really enjoyed it. Now, I know there's not too many of us out there, but I really enjoyed it. Now, when this movie got released first, I remember the critics destroyed it. But I do remember reading one reviewer where it says that it was almost, the movie felt like a mesh between Men in Black and Ghostbusters. And I remember thinking at the time, how can that be a bad thing? So I went to see it. Yes, I enjoyed it, but I understand why people didn't enjoy it. And I can definitely see why they compared this movie to both of them movies, particularly Men in Black. You can't help but think of Men in Black when you watch this movie. But in case anyone's not really aware of the movie, it's basically Ryan Reynolds. He's a cop at the start of this movie. He gets killed by his partner. And he thinks he's going to heaven, but he doesn't. He actually goes to the R.I.P.D., which is the Rest in Peace Department. So he's a police officer again, and he's actually hunting down ghosts. Now, I'm not going to say anything more about it. Now, I remember people at the time saying that the CGI looked terrible in this movie. I actually think the poor CGI lends very well to particularly the ghosts that you do see in it. Some of them do just look hideous. But I had a fun time with it. It's funny at times. There's some great action set pieces as well. I think my only one downside to this movie might be Jeff Bridges himself. I do not like his accent that he's doing in this movie. Sometimes it's actually hard to understand what he's saying. I remember the first time I seen this movie, I nearly almost needed subtitles on to actually make out what he's saying. Thankfully, this movie does come with a DTS-X audio, and I think it addresses a lot of them problems with Jeff Bridges. I didn't have near the troubles that I had the first time trying to understand him. And again, I think it's to do with that DTS-X. And the picture quality on this does look great. It's not, again, a monster upgrade over that previous Blu-ray, but it's a decent upgrade. The only problem is the movie does have a lot of CGI segments in it. And when they do happen, the picture drastically drops. It just goes a bit softer, and you will notice it. But other than that, I think you'd be impressed by it, particularly the DTS-X sound on that one. So yes, if you're a fan of it, I definitely recommend checking it out. The 4K transfer, that is. Right, so on to my next 4K title, and I was a long time coming to this one. We've got Smile. Now, I'm a big fan of this movie. It's a creepy movie. It's a real chiller. You don't see too many of them out there. And I had a fun time with it. My only problem I had with it was my first viewing of this. I went to see it in the cinema. And two grown-ass women absolutely destroyed this movie for me and my fiance. They were sitting directly behind us. They would not shut up from start to finish. Just listen to whispering, constant talking all during this movie. And when you're watching a horror movie like this, sound is key. But when you hear whispering coming from behind you from two assholes that have no interest in watching the movie whatsoever, why they wasted the money, I honestly don't know. And yes, it really really ruined our first viewing experience when it comes to this movie. So, but other than that, look, I got it on 4K Blu-ray. It does look amazing. It's a creepy movie, like I said. If you haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out. Check out the 4K picture on this one as well. It's one of them movies that lends well to OLED televisions. You're going to see some very deep blacks there, adding a certain depth to the picture, which I think you're really going to appreciate. And yes, it was great revisiting this and finally getting a proper viewing experience of it instead of that horrible time that we went to see it in the cinema, which was unfortunately ruined for us. Right, so on to my next 4K release, and we have got Pray for the Devil. Now, I went into this movie, my expectations were rock bottom. I thought it was going to be a bit of a gamble. I got it for a good price. I took a gamble on it, and I have to say, it paid off. I really enjoyed this movie. It's about the first female exorcist, and her first case that she's going up against is this young girl who's possessed by this demon, and the woman herself is convinced that the demon that's possessing this young girl is the same demon that possessed her mother when she was a young child. And I have to tell you, the woman in this movie, let me just get her name if I can. She is absolutely fantastic. Jacqueline Byers, I think her name is. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. She is wonderful in this movie. And I think for that reason alone, she will actually carry you through this movie. She's very, very convincing. And not only that, but there is some great exorcism scenes, set pieces in this movie that will put a chill up your spine. So yes, if you're into these kind of possession demon movies, I definitely recommend checking this movie out. If you can get it at a good price, particularly on 4K, I think you're going to be very, very satisfied, because the picture does look rather nice on this, and it does have a Dolby... Does it have a Dolby Atmos soundtrack? It does have a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. Again, I can't quite remember. Apologies for that, because it's been, wow, nearly 2-3 months ago when I watched this. But I think I do remember being very impressed by the 4K transfer, and I'm sure the Atmos was going to be quite amazing on it as well, because it's one of them movies that lends well to it. So yeah, Pray for the Devil, fun movie. I really enjoyed that one, and like I said, I recommend picking it up if you have not seen it before. Right, so on to my last pickup we go, and we have got Double Jeopardy. Now, I said this in a stream a couple of nights ago, but I remember getting this movie back in the day on Pirate, and it was actually labelled as Fugitive 3. And I get why they've done that, because it does feel like The Fugitive or US Marshals. So if you're big into them movies, I think you're going to get a kick out of this movie. The movie stars Ashley Judd, and she gets framed for the death of her husband, and she does a stint in jail, and she gets out, but she breaks her parole and she goes on the run, and she just basically wants to find out who framed her and why. And even Tommy Lee Jones' character in this, he feels very, very similar to his character in The Fugitive and US Marshals. So like I said, if you did enjoy both of them movies, definitely check out Double Jeopardy. It's a fun little thriller, and I think you'll get something from it. The 4K picture on this, I actually think it looks beautiful. Easily the best this movie has ever looked. Now, bear in mind, I only had this movie on DVD, but it was very, very obvious that you are watching a 4K picture. Now, it's not the best 4K picture you will ever see, but it does look, I think it looks great. It really, really does. And it has a DTS 5.1 audio as well. And for the most part, that actually sounds fantastic as well. So again, I do recommend checking that out on 4K. And even if you haven't seen the movie, I do recommend checking it out, because it's a great, fun little movie as well. So there you have it, folks. That is all my pickups for the last couple of weeks. Some great movies in there. One absolutely shocking one. But look, they can't all be winners. So as per usual, folks, if you did like what you see here, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you could do, leave a comment down below. And please do share your thoughts on some of these movies that I have here. And yeah, I hope to see you all again real soon with my next video. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.